Russian politics is laid out in a framework where the country is led by the president along with the prime minister and his ministers. The country is governed by the Constitution of Russian Federation. Constitution of Russia. A national referendum brought the present constitution, which was adopted on December 12, 1993. On December 25, 1993, the Constitution was officially published and it came into force. Article 11 of the Constitution states that the subjects of state power are the President of the Russian Federation, the Government of the Russian Federation, the Federal Assembly, the Federation Council and the State Duma, courts of the Russian Federation. President of Russia. Russia elects her president through direct suffrage by secret ballot. An individual can hold the position of the president for 2 consecutive terms only. The president's term lasts for 6 years. The Constitution of Russian Federation appoints the president as the head of state. He is responsible for setting all domestic and foreign policies and will represent Russia for internal and international affairs. The president is also responsible to protect the rights and freedom of the Russian citizens. He is the Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Russian Federation and can take all necessary measures to protect the independence of Russia. The president also holds power to dissolve the State Duma. Articles 82 to 93 of the Constitution define the responsibilities, powers, and limitations of the President of Russian Federation in detail. If the President fails to fulfill the duties towards the nation, the post shall be temporarily deputized to the Prime Minister, who will then become the acting President of the Russian Federation. A Prime Minister can also assume the role provisionally when the President is undergoing health problems such as a surgery, etc. The President then resumes back his duties once he is fit. Current President of Russia. The most recent presidential elections took place on March 18, 2018. Vladimir Putin won the elections, retaining his position as the President of Russian Federation for the second time consecutively. Vladimir Putin has also held the office of president twice earlier from the year 2000 to 2008, when the presidential term was for 4 years. The Government of Russian Federation. The executive power of Russian Federation is held by the Government of Russia. The Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, and the Federal Ministers are the members of the government. Some of the responsibilities of the Russian government include drafting and implementation of the nation's budget, management of federal property, implementation of laws and public order, implementation of foreign policy, implementation of a uniform financial and monetary policy, etc. Current Prime Minister of Russian Federation. Dmitry Medvedev holds the office of Prime Minister in Russia. He has been serving the Russian Federation as the Prime Minister since 2012. He is considered as the second most popular politician in Russia after Vladimir Putin. The Federal Assembly. According to the Russian Constitution, the Federal Assembly is the national legislature of the Russian Federation. It comprises of the Federation Council, known as the Upper House, and the State Duma, which is referred to as the Lower House. The Federation Council or Upper House. The office of the Federation Council is situated in Moscow. The chairman of the Federation Council is the next most important person after the Prime Minister. Valentina Matviyenko holds the position as the chairman of Federation Council currently. In situations where both the President and Prime Minister fail to do their jobs, he or she becomes the acting President of Russian President. The main duties of the Council comprise of impeachment of the President, appointing all the judges of Russian high courts, approving the decree of President on introduction of emergency in the state, or introduction of martial law, giving decisions on possible use of Russian armed forces beyond the Russian boundaries, appointing or discharging the deputy chairman and half the auditors of all the accounting chamber, etc. The State Duma or lower house. The State Duma office is also located in Moscow. The members of the State Duma are known as deputies and are led by the chairman of the State Duma. The current chairman of the State Duma is Vyacheslav Volodin. Some duties of the State Duma include appointing or discharging the Commissioner of Human Rights, appointing or discharging the chairman and half the auditors of Accounting Chamber, consents on the appointment of chairman of the government, advances charges against the president for his impeachment, decides the problems of confidence in the current government, etc. Courts of Russian Federation. The Supreme Court of the Russian Federation is the last court of resort within the Russian judiciary for civil, administrative, and criminal cases. The Supreme Court is also responsible for administering the work of the lower courts operating in the Russian Federation. The Russian president appoints the judges of the Supreme Court, and the judge must be a Russian citizen. The Supreme Court comprises of the Judicial Panel for Criminal Affairs, the Military Panel, and the Judicial Panel for Civil Affairs. Each panel is responsible for the respective cases that fall in their area of jurisdiction. The Russian Supreme Court has the power to hear a case from the beginning or original jurisdiction and change the decisions of the lower courts or appellate jurisdiction. The Supreme Court holds the power to terminate political parties and Russian NGOs. It can challenge the actions of Central Electoral Commission of Russia while the presidential elections are being structured. It can also challenge the legislation of government agencies. Criminal charges pressed against the federal judges, State Duma and Russian Federation Council are also heard by the Supreme Court, etc. After an emergent opposition movement, the media is under strict observation of the Russian authorities. The current president has embraced a vociferous nationalist path and requested his people to do the same. Vladimir Putin is a powerful leader who has fished Russia out of the dangerous waters of economic and political crisis which had been hovering the nation since the 1990s.